Hello and welcome to the Irongeek Podcast. This is episode number 225. Today we are going to be talking about Punkspider. We're going to be talking about Russians hacking federal prosecutors and all sorts of other fun things. Adrian, how's your week going? I hope it's better than last week.
That's never particularly good. I'm losing faith in the world. Let's put it that way.
Well, the world is fucked, but hopefully the next generation can unfuck it.
No, I've seen the parents of this generation. It's still fucked.
Yeah, it's kind
That's not always true. I know some good ones, but yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what we got today. So in our show notes, which are, of course, available and will be inserted later into the YouTube channel. I forgot to put them there. We have the first thing we're going to talk about today is the U.S. House has terminated a deal with iConstituent after the company waited days to raise the ransomware alarm. Essentially, they got hit with ransomware, and rather than tell the House, hey, we got hit with ransomware. And by the way, this place has essentially the voter database of everywhere, which is also good to know. So those have all leaked online anyway, because you can actually get a copy of your local voter database just by doing a FOIA request. So those are all online anyway. But if you want to look up like who's a Republican or who's a Democrat in your state, you just got a first name, last name, address. You can pull down those databases over on raid forums for like 8 credits each. They're like, that's like $1.50. iConstituent anyway is used by about 60 House members and was a designated platform to facilitate communication between both politicians and local residents. They have a lot of data in this platform that obviously you would not want an attacker getting. And now they got ransomware attacked, and they decided rather than tell them right away they got ransomware, they were going to try and hide it. And when they found out, they were not happy. Yep. So the House has pretty much dropped this platform, and now they're looking for alternatives. They're doing an open bid, fun times always when third-party sites that the government decides to contract with and upload tons of personal data to for their constituents get pwned. Next, we've got PasswordState. Remember PasswordState, Adrian? It's a tool kind of like LastPass, but for companies. And a lot of companies use this shit, and they had a supply chain attack in their update program. So anybody who used this program for their company and then pushed an update, they got infected with this. One of the companies I do business with actually uses this internally, and luckily they are really bad at patch management, so they did not get affected by the breach. But what we have here essentially is, let me show my screen, that this PasswordState program, when it got hacked a little while ago, it's been for like 3 months now. And they're an Australian company behind the scenes that runs this thing. They essentially give you a platform that you can host all your stuff locally on, and then all your passwords are supposed to be kept within the LAN. And you can there's like plugins for your browser, kind of like LastPass, and your users can access the passwords and shit. Long story short, the standalone web server component, they found a vulnerability update mechanism. They pushed it, they infected it, and then pretty much anybody who updated this program in like a 28-hour window between April 20th and 22nd got this malicious update, which then pulled down all the passwords, and then those were used in additional attacks. This is kind of similar to SolarWinds in that it's also a supply chain attack, and those are definitely pretty prevalent nowadays. I think supply chain is like the way to go if you want to infect a lot of machines at once. PasswordState was fortunate in ways that SolarWinds was not, because the software updates needed to be manually installed. That means that they couldn't just push an update that then got pushed every installation. And it's also fairly trivial to see if a server has been compromised. They've of course, released information and went public on April 24th about this with an advisory on their website. Yeah. So not a great thing, but at least they seem to have handled it pretty well.
I'm gonna go get me some more beverage. Go ahead and keep talking.
I shall. I mostly talk to myself anyways. Okay. Next, we have a controversial tool calls out thousands of hackable websites. So this tool is great. So this is a little browser plugin that as you browse websites transparently, kind of looks for shit that might be vulnerable on that website and then lets you know in real time if the site is vulnerable. It is in beta, and it is, of course, a tool that has been out previously, and they decided to take it down because of complaints. And this year at DEF CON, they decided, well, let's bring it back because, why not? So this particular tool right here, is soon going to have a search functionality built in. And I have forgotten the name of this tool because I am a derp. But yeah, so this tool is called Punkspider. And it was out about a year or two ago, I think. And now it's back. And you can play with it. And you can install this browser plugin in Chrome or Firefox very easily. And as you browse the web, if you happen to come across a site that's got a vulnerability, it'll pop up here with a little, see that 0 there? If it finds one, as you're browsing, it'll go to a 1 and it'll explain it. Is there SQL injection? It will actively try. Path reversal, cross-site scripting, any of the OWASP top 10 things. If it finds it in that site, it just tells you right away. Probably going to steal some bounties from some hackers, but in the end, I think it is awesome. Iran's secret cyber files on how cargo ships and petrol stations could be attacked. So this is an interesting little leak/article here. Obviously, Iran doesn't want their top secret cyber files being leaked to the public, but they were. These are classified documents allegedly from Iran that reveal secret research into how a cyber attack could be used to sink a cargo ship, kind of like in the movie Hackers, man. We can't put the ballast under manual control. Everything's digital.
That movie. I know it has a huge influence on a lot of people.
I love that movie.
Actually make hacking look visually interesting.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's pretty far removed. But then again, if you actually showed realistic hacking in a lot of movies, it'd be pretty fucking boring.
Yeah, man. You imagine somebody running an Nmap scan and then going to exploit DB, pulling down a Python script, fussing around with the Python script, launching it a bunch of times, hoping they'll get a reverse shell, and then getting frustrated, throwing their keyboard in the sink. Certainly never happens to me. So the internal files, which were obtained by Sky News, also include information on satellite communication devices that are used by the global shipping industry and computer-based systems that control lights, heating, and ventilation, essentially IoT/SCADA stuff. It pretty much goes into a lot of technical detail on how they could exploit these vulnerabilities to cripple U.S. infrastructure. And as we've seen with the Colonial Pipeline attack, it is not that far removed from being able to cause a major disruption to American life by screwing with technology over here. They already do it to Israel. They constantly screw with their irrigation systems and knock them offline because some of them actually need manually to be activated. And if you are DDoSing it, you can't get in to manually activate it, meaning that you have these irrigation systems that are not watering plants and things die. That's been a thing in the past that Iran has done. Anyway, next thing we've got, Apple has released a fix for the iOS and Mac 0 day, the 13th one this year. So if you know anything about the 0 day market, these things go for like $1 million a piece, man. They if you're going to sell this on like Zerodimium for an actual like 0-click iOS exploit that you can maybe send in a text message and pop a journalist's phone, those things will trade for a lot of money. If I had access to these exploits, I would be a rich man. So the Apple spokesman didn't return a comment, but this one here is a proof of concept for CVE 2021-30807 in a single tweet, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. And this is some C code here. They're using int main instead of void main because that's what we do now. Void is not cool. We want to return in case something doesn't. Anyway. Nobody cares. Yep. So a whole bunch of exploits have hit the iOS ecosystem. I really like the Wi-Fi one. You heard about that, right? You could toss up a hotspot that fit. That's just a bunch of looks like a bunch of random characters. But if somebody on an iPhone tries to connect to an open hotspot, it completely disables their Wi-Fi and their networking on the phone, and it won't work again until they do a complete reset of the network stack in the phone, which is like a pain in the ass to do. And they've actually found ways to further exploit that. Once that somebody connects to your Wi-Fi, they can do other things, so they can actually get a shell on the phone now. But that's like taking that exploit to the buffer overflow logical conclusion. Because what happens is the Watchdog app kills the process that starts writing in memory that it's not supposed to write in, and that process happens to be the networking protocol stack. So essentially, the phone eats its own network stack. And in order to get it to come back on, you need to actually go into like settings and then go networking and then do network reset, which is a pain in the ass. But that's a good way to annoy a lot of people with iPhones. Is just toss up a hotspot with that name. And if they haven't updated to the latest security update as of last month, which a lot of people don't, because that requires clicking buttons and stuff. So you could literally just like get a whole bunch of iPhones to just stop working if you can trick them into connecting to your hotspot. It's cool stuff. Fun times, Adrian. Screwing with Apple people. Okay. Next, we've got the NSO Group blocks some government from using its spyware over misuse claims. So if you know anything about NSO Group, these are dudes who sell malware to governments so that they can pop journalists and pop people who might be a threat to the state. And it's an Israeli company. They are also pretty famous for being able to get into iPhones that you normally can't get into. They have this thing called the Pegasus Project, which is a consortium of media outlets that have reported the Pegasus spyware was linked to hacks and potential surveillance of phones of journalists, human rights activists, and heads of state. They were able to get a whole bunch of phone numbers associated with phones that were hacked by this and then tie those to journalists due to an open bucket in AWS, I believe. So they've got 60 customers in 40 countries. All of them are intelligence agencies or law enforcement or military. And it has now blocked 5 government agencies from using their software due to misuse. That would be Saudi Arabia, Dubai, the UAE, and even Mexico, ironically. It only sells spyware to countries that claim they're using it to fight terrorism. But since the country...
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Right.
Like, consider terrorism.
Oh, you're right, because terrorism is pretty widely defined. It could be anything that could cause panic or unrest, which could be a news article published by a famous journalist. That could be terrorism in their eyes. So that makes it perfectly justifiable for them to bug journalists' phones.
They might actually catch journalists in the act of journalism. Who knows?
Well, you're assuming journalists are actually going to journal.
Some do. I'm being overly broad there, but a lot of shit is clickbait. And
most of it nowadays.
People's brains are influenced by the shit they see on Facebook.
And most people don't even read the fucking articles. They just look at the headline and they're like, I know enough about that I don't need to read it. And they don't even click it. And then it just continues to influence their worldview.
There was a crazy person from Chicago that seemed like that because I actually confronted him. Did you read the article? I'm like, no, they didn't. I think they later give me shit for something else.
Yeah. I mean, if I could design a mass brainwashing machine, it would pretty much just be Facebook. I mean, think about it. You get all your friends on there. Everybody gets in their own little cliques, their own little bubbles. And then what you can do is you can profit off of getting people to hate each other by getting more interactions and advertising revenue on your site, because people are going to interact with it more if they're fighting with people about bullshit rather than if they just check their feed and see their friends are doing well and, oh, my high school sweetheart got a new dog, shit like that. That would actually get them a lot of money.
Well, actually, my high school sweetheart got fat or something like that.
That's fun too. Or look at that loser they ended up with, right? That's what people should be using it for. But instead, we're fighting about politics. We're fighting about mask mandates. We're fighting about vaccines. We're fighting about everything. Everything has now become political. And the more you can politicize an argument and divide the masses, the more money you can make off of them with advertising revenue as they're fighting back and forth on your platform.
That's what they found out on some of these different different publication outlets. For instance, I was listening to Tim Pool talking about Mike at one time was sort of more libertarian, but over time they found out that rage clickbait made a lot more money, so they switched to doing that.
Yeah. Well, the thing with rage clickbait is that it sells, right? And the more people that click it, the more advertising revenue you get. And a lot of places are all about the money and their shareholders.
Yeah.
So if they want to be successful and have an online business that's getting lots of interactions, they go to the BuzzFeed model. Top 10 lists, clickbait articles.
It's great because you can get leftists to treat it unironically or post it on Facebook unironically, and you'll have a bunch of conservatives posting it and saying, look at this bullshit. And you'll get publicity from both sides. And who cares if they like the article or not? They still see the ads, assuming they don't have ad blockers in place that are efficient.
And even if they do, what a lot of the ad blockers have had don't block. There are these things called safe lists in ad blockers now, like the Ad Block Plus, the most popular one. It has a safe list where it will allow text-based ads from certain people to go through because it's non-obtrusive and has been vetted. Meanwhile, people like me, I'm still using freaking uBlock Origin with custom block lists because I don't trust any of them to whitelist anything for me. Yeah. You ever get to a site and they're like, hey, if you want to read this article, turn your ad blocker off? That's usually when I go to my ad blocker and I go over here and I click this lightning button and then I disable that element on the site, which is just great. Zapper mode in uBlock is freaking great.
All right, I might have tried that one out before. I've only ever used ad block before.
It's really good at bypassing paywalls too, because you just block. Essentially, the article loads real quick, and then a second later, that stupid thing pops up. And if you just remove that element, you can read the article again.
I think it's Wall Street Journal I have the most problem with the paywalls.
Let's see how that works. WSJ.com. Let's see what's up there today. Let's see a freaking article here. You got to. So it's not going to let me read the whole thing because I don't have an account. But what I normally do, like on other ones, you see this subscribe to read the whole story thing. It's not going to work on this site because I know it doesn't. But generally what I do is this. Then I find this whole thing right here, right? And then I kill it. And then I can go and read it. But even then, what you can sometimes do is you can just take the article and then you go to Google and then you actually just search the URL of the article. And then you go here.
And one of the archive sites is also usually pretty good. I don't recommend always using the archive site before even sending the article to anybody. One, you deny ad revenue. And the other is a lot of news agencies have a tendency to change things over time.
Yeah. Archive.is is great if you want to archive a site. And also, it's also really good at bypassing the Wall Street Journal paywall. It gets the whole thing. Yep. Archive.is is my favorite for a Wall Street Journal. And I usually will link people right to that. Another one is Summarize This. Is that this? I think it was. Summarize This. This is not the same tool I was thinking of. Does that work? Nope. There's another one where essentially it's supposed to like reorganize it and make it readable. But when it does that, it also bypasses paywalls. I don't remember the name of that one. All right. Next, we've got Paragon, an American-funded, super-secret Israeli surveillance startup that hacks WhatsApp and Signal. This is very similar to the other group. We were just talking about the NSO Group. So Paragon, they don't have a website. There's not a lot of information about them online. And even if the Tel Aviv-based smartphone surveillance startup employees are all over LinkedIn, there's only about 50 of them. And that's not bad for a company that does stealth. If you want to know about this company, they're one of the few companies that claim if they get physical access to a phone, they can not only get into it, but they will be able to access like any Signal messages that are on that phone, anything on any encrypted chat app. Essentially what they do is they get user level access to the phone, and anything the user could do, they can do. So if you do have like Signal, you have the ability to, every time you launch Signal, which is annoying as fuck, have to enter a code, which if you're getting text messages all day long through Signal, is going to be a giant pain in the ass. So most people are not going to do that, but it would add that extra layer of security. So if they were trying to get your phone, or you can make it like every time you lock your screen, you then have to enter the code again to get back in Signal. Yeah. Anyway, so they can get your Facebook messages, your Signal stuff, your Gmail, your WhatsApp, all the stuff that pretends to be encrypted. It is encrypted. I'm just teasing. They claim they can get it. Well, the thing is that they can get it. They can also get into your phone if they don't have the PIN. They probably have a few exploits to their name. It's very similar to the group that sells those hardware devices for breaking into iPhones and stuff. I have a cool idea for a project, Adrian.
What's that?
I have to find a way to intercept like man-in-the-middle USB communication. And then I want to get one of those devices off eBay that still has a valid license key that they use to break into phones. And I want to man in the middle of the USB traffic and see how it's doing that, and then make a much cheaper device that can just do that without the need for their device. Like just put it on a freaking Raspberry Pi or something and put it in HID mode. Figure out what they're doing, figure out how the attack works, and then just clone it. You know?
Actually, maybe a generation or two behind on Raspberry Pis. Do they have a HID mode now? Can they actually access this device?
Yeah, so you can set your Raspberry Pi in host mode or in slave mode. And if you put it in host mode, you can do some cool shit that you wouldn't expect you can do. Like you can make it pretend to be a keyboard or a network card or any number of devices. And if you put it in HID mode, you can do replay attacks like you would do with the Hack 5 Bash Bunny.
You can make a really fat keylogger.
Yeah. Or well, if you have the Pi Zero, you can actually fit that in a little slimline case, and then you get a little plug that just goes USB micro or whatever, USB-C to like USB-A male, and then you plug that into the computer, and you could set it so at boot, once it loads their Linux kernel, the next thing it does is boom, launch
so
that attack.
As small, but it would still be reasonable.
Yeah, it'd still be small. It's more practical to do like a hit attack with an Arduino type device because it doesn't have that boot up to get into Linux. It turns on, it runs the program that second. This is like a microcontroller. I think you could do it with an ESP8266 or a Node MCU as well. Put it in HID mode and then have it emulate. What do they call that thing? Not a Bash Bunny. What's the other thing? I forget the name of it.
Rubber ducky, Tinsy?
Yeah, like a rubber ducky or a Tinsy. Yeah. You can do that stuff. But what I want to figure out is how this Pegasus group is doing this. Or not necessarily Pegasus group, but like there are these devices you can buy. They're only supposed to sell them to law enforcement that can break into iPhones and break into Android devices. And if it still has a valid key to whoever it was sold to, which is usually when you buy them on eBay, they got a valid key for the next 2 years. You can actually just use this and crack into people's phones. A lot of the shops of the mall, like that repair screens, have them because they need to get into clients' phones, and the clients don't necessarily leave the PIN code, and they like need to test the screen after they put a new one on or shit, and they just break right into the phone. They're not hard to get. It's just I would like to be able to reverse engineer the protocol and the attacks that they're doing. I want to see what kind of USB data is going over there and reverse engineer it. Maybe I could talk to Ong about that. He's smart with shit like that.
Who?
Ong, he runs Red Balloon. Okay. It's a security company in New York. They do a lot of firmware dumps of Cisco devices. And they're doing a satellite hacking challenge at DEF CON this year. And they're giving away these dev boards that are actually really cool. I'll show you. They, I think I have it in here. If not. So these boards you can use to control a satellite dish and have it reach out to like a specific satellite. All it is like 4 controllers for there. It's pretty. See? So also this pinout is wrong, but you could use this to control the motors and the not necessarily motors, but the servos for like the PTZ, point tilt zoom of the satellite dish, so that it can line up with the satellites as they're in low, medium, or high orbit, and you can like track a satellite in real time and establish a connection bidirectionally with one, which means that you could hack some satellite shit, which would be neat. A lot of the satellites apparently have very little, if not no, security whatsoever. But yeah, it's fun stuff. So I want to play with that too. Next is we have the Justice Department saying the Russians have hacked the federal prosecutors. These are the same Russians who are behind the SolarWinds attack. They broke into the email accounts of some of the most prominent federal prosecutors' offices around the country last year. About 80% of all Microsoft email accounts used by the 4 U.S. Attorney General's offices in New York were breached. The Justice Department said 27 AG offices had at least one employee account compromised during the hacking campaign. They should be using two-factor, but lawyers are going to be too lazy ass to fucking two-factor their email. The Biden administration in April announced sanctions, including the expulsion of Russian diplomats in response to the SolarWinds attack. Russia then made some people who hacked our colonial pipeline just disappear from the face of the planet. So like they're like, it's okay to hack the U.S., just don't hack their critical infrastructure. If you do that, we're going to disappear you. So they did that. All right. So all victims had been notified, and they're working to mitigate the operational security and privacy risks by this hack. They didn't provide additional information about how it happened. My guess is that since SolarWinds is the cheapest way to do network monitoring on a budget, a lot of companies, especially government agencies, use SolarWinds. So this was probably just sitting on their network, and they just tunneled in through the back door and the update mechanism. It was probably on like every freaking attorney general and like state and federal government website. I know even the county I used to work for used SolarWinds. So it's not surprising that that's how they could have gotten in and checked those journalists and not journalists. Not talking about journalists. We're talking about AGs, attorney generals. Anyway, they're hacking federal prosecutors, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if they're hacking federal prosecutors to get data about cases of Russians who are on trial in the U.S. That would be interesting. Maybe find something, a hole in the defense. Well, not the defense, a hole in the prosecution's case that they could use and then feed to the defense. Remember the CASSAYA attack? This was another supply chain one. This was a tool a lot of MSSPs used to do remote control. They got hacked, and they obtained a universal decryptor key, right, for the Revil ransomware attack, and they are working to remediate customers impaired. They got the key from a third party and have teams actively assisting customers, and they're working with MCSoft to support customers, yada, yada, yada. The thing is, right, they're claiming they didn't buy this key. They're saying they obtained it through a third party, and that third party also did not buy it. So how'd you get it, right? That's my question. How did they reverse engineer the same encryption, which I'm pretty sure was AES 256, which is fairly uncrackable by today's methods unless you've got a shit ton of GPU power to throw at it. I mean, a shit ton. We're talking like fucking hundreds of GeForce 3080s working for days.
Yeah, I kind of wonder how much data the United States has that's encrypted that they currently can't get into, but they hold on to for another 20 years just so they can look at it later. I'm not sure how much that stuff would actually be useful 20 years later, but.
Yeah. I think that they've gotten backdoors on a lot of the popular encryption. They just don't tell us about it. They have these.
There was some rumor about TrueCrypt possibly ending because of didn't want to be forced to put something into the government or try to force put it in. But that was just, I don't know if that was purely conspiracy theory or not.
Yeah, they're in the news a lot because of shit like that. I use TrueCrypt myself. Most of my drives were TrueCrypt encrypted. VeraCrypt now. And the thing is, like, if you were to take a look at my drives here, I use different encryption algorithms. I use different passwords. These are just two of them. This is, and I want to auto mount my devices, right? I have a really long. I wonder if somebody will be able to figure this out based on my keystrokes someday and decrypt my
Look
drive.
at some success of actually, I saw like a research paper about like checking out vibrations and so forth to figure out what keys someone most likely typed. It was like 100% kind of thing, but
that wasn't a paper. You recorded a talk on that at one of the cons, dude.
Oh shit, I don't even remember that.
Yeah, man.
I recorded a lot of talks.
Yeah, I know. Quite a few, not just a few trivial amount. But yeah, that was essentially they're able to use the sound of the keyboard, especially the mechanical ones, to figure out what was typed, which was really cool. It had like a 90% accuracy rating, which is pretty damn good based on sound. Imagine you combine that with like a long range directional mic. That could be a badass attack. I love that side channel shit. Not a lot of people talk about it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people also about using lasers off a piece of glass to be able to pick up vibrations in the room and hear sound.
Oh, that's a real thing. You can actually make one of those. There's a tutorial on I think it was Nighthawk in Light was the name of the YouTuber who did one. If not, it might have been from that guy who died in the paragliding accident, King of Random. That guy had built a lot of really cool shit similar to that back in the day. But if memory serves, it probably is Nighthawk, not King of Random. Still very cool. They walk you through like how to do it, and I think that's pretty neat in and of itself, because just be able to like build things that usually the government only has access to technology like that. I think it's really freaking cool. I digress. I think I also entered my password in wrong, and now my drive is not decrypting and my computer's freezing. That's always a fun thing with Veracrypt. Okay. Next, we've got cyber job listings excluded Colorado workers after salary transparency law went into effect. So, transparency about salaries is a thing we should have everywhere. I hate when a recruiter reaches out to me on LinkedIn or on Dice, and they're like, hey, I got a great opportunity for you. And they describe a job I could definitely do. And then I ask about the salary, and they just like, they don't want to talk about that till you go further along.
I don't understand why they don't want to talk about it, because it's going to be one of the major issues. And what's the point of wasting their time and your time if you're not going to be interested in taking the job?
Right. If you don't tell me the salary range up front, I don't even consider it, because it's like, why would I waste my time if you're going to offer me a job that pays less than I'm making now, that I'd have to like, uproot my life for?
Happen. And the thing is, the new job, I figured it was going to be paid pretty well, because they had all this Cisco requirements and experience that they wanted, and it paid. I want to say it was something like $30,000 a year, and I'm like, who's going to get this shit? And I know the guy who had the job previously, and he just had left for a better job.
What I hate is when they'll be like, they need 20 years worth of experience in something that came out last year. And then on, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Like they want 20 years experience on a technology that came out last year. And on top of that, 20 years experience, they now say it's an entry-level position and pays like fucking $30,000. It's like, what crack are your recruiters smoking that they think they're going to get somebody who knows all this shit for that low ball price?
I get on LinkedIn is a few job prospects that people think I might be interested in, and a lot of Indian ladies trying to sell me certification training.
Oh, those Indian ladies hit me up too, trying to sell me certification training, and some of it's pretty dubious. They're like, we guarantee you'll pass, and we have answer keys for these tests. I'm like,
oh, I also get hit up for the contact information of men that apparently they thought were cute, and they want the contact info. I've gotten that from some people before too.
I went to the
not from men, from women looking to find the contact information of a certain man.
Yeah, I went to this fancy pants, self-congratulatory circle jerk of a thing back in New York, where it was like a local organization decided they were going to give out awards to all the tech companies based on different things, and all these awards were essentially the company is paying them to give them these awards, and it was hosted in this like fancy place where there was nice hors d'oeuvres and like steak and lobster and like all the cool food. But then the whole thing was pretty much like a giant circle jerk after that. While I was there, this Indian woman comes up to me and she's like trying to sell me this network segregation technology that makes it so your devices can't talk to one another on a LAN. And I pretty much just asked her, so how is that any different from me just disabling say in Wi-Fi settings, so the computers can't talk to one another on the same LAN. So they go, well, our technology is proprietary. It uses an agent on the machine to determine what active network paths are necessary, and then does some under the scenes analysis. I'm like, this seems like a lot of fucking work to make computers not talk to one another. Why not just fucking set up some rules? Put them on different VLANs. Anything other than this. It's like, but after that, like I gave her my card because I was interested in like how their technology worked. I wanted to learn about it. And she didn't stop trying to sell it to me for 3 months. It was like every day I was getting emails from this chick trying to get me to buy this shit, trying to give me demos. And I'm like, I don't want to demo this. I am not really that interested. Please stop emailing me. And she's like, are you not taking security seriously? It's like, they're aggressive, man. They do not want to give up, which I kind of admire. I digress.
Yeah, I've been researching phishing services recently, and by tweeting about it, I have a bunch of well, not a bunch. I had 2 different people from the same company contact me trying to make a sale.
Oh, the best is when you get them to fight with each other. I've had reps from 3 guys from the same company reach out to me over the course of a month, and I replied to the last one, and I mentioned the other 2, and he got really mad because apparently whoever contacts the person first gets the commission. But we were actually going to buy this thing that he was selling, and he thought he was going to get this commission, which was not really that much. I think it'd be it's a monthly thing. I think he gets like a cut of it every month, and it would be like maybe $200. So what would you make, like $10 a month off this? I guess it adds up with a lot of them. But yeah, he was miffed that I mentioned these other 2 people. He was like, why didn't you tell me ahead of time that you had spoken with so and so? And I was like, well, I didn't realize that was important. He's like, well, I'm going to have to put you they're going to be your account manager going forward. And I am very disappointed in this. I'm like, fuck off, dude. Pit them against each other. It's fun. Let them fight it out in an arena. Anyway, so this Colorado thing, right? There are fines of up to $10,000 for each violation. Rackspace, got hit with this, with dozens of these, because they were not. They're like, we could support remote work in most states except Colorado, because they have to be upfront with their salary, and they can't like make people take less money because it's essentially you have to have a salary range for the job, and you have to hire people for that position within that salary range, and you can't just lowball somebody and pay them less because there's transparency rules. And it's like, you ever go on Glassdoor and you see some really great reviews for a company, and then you scroll to the bottom and you see the really shit ones, and those are like the people who actually work there who are like, this company sucks ass, and they hide those, and then like it looks like this is a great company, but it's not. It's the same kind of thing with the salary range. It's like you look for a job and like everybody says it's a great company, go work there. Except maybe if you were to look at the people who are getting paid $40,000 less than their equally qualified person next to them. I mean, that'd be kind of dick. Imagine you and I both applied for the same job, and they offered you $100,000 for it, and they offered me $70,000, and we both had like the same skill set, and the only difference was maybe like I was Indian, or like you were female. Right, and they try and lowball you with different numbers. That's what they do, though, and that's why they're like, we can't do business in these states that have this law, like Colorado. And it's evening the playing field, I think. Unfortunately, they got this bitch to comment on it. I don't like her. Anyway, and moving on. Yeah, you saw that. You saw that, right? That bitch. I hate her. She used to be cool. Now she's a dick. More and more people in the industry are starting to realize that there's a relationship between not treating a certain subset of employees well and the company's culture. So there is a website that's aiming to identify companies trying to skirt this law called Colorado Excluded, which we're definitely going to check out now. Colorado Excluded. And on here, they've got a bunch of companies that are trying to skirt this law, which I think is kind of cool. The Department of Labor and Employment has confirmed they've received dozens of complaints about companies violating the law. The law only applies to companies with workers already in Colorado. That means a number of employers have taken to borrowing remote candidates who work from Colorado. Essentially, it screws over people who want to work remote from Colorado who were willing to take less money, maybe because they live in another state that's got cheaper cost of living.
Yeah, because California isn't necessarily cheap.
Exactly. Next, from stolen laptop inside the company network. So this is an article about, not really an article, it's more of a walkthrough, how you can take a stolen laptop, use the VPN software on there, right? And it goes through everything from just taking a stolen laptop that's locked down to getting the data off of it and using it to get inside the corporate network. So in this particular case, the BIOS settings were all locked down with a password. The BIOS had a boot order that was locked, so you couldn't boot from a second device. Secure boot was enabled and would not run any unsigned operating system. The conboot auth bypass didn't work because of full disk encryption. The LAN turtle and responder attacks via USB Ethernet adapters returned nothing usable. And the solid state drive was full disk FDE using BitLocker. So I have heard things about BitLocker where if you can, before the machine shuts down, migrate into the system process just for a second, you can take over the update mechanism. And then on reboot, you can have a persistent shell that will not have to deal with the encryption issue. But that means you have to get system in the first place, which is kind of a bitch. So TPM is also secured with BitLocker, trusted platform module that is also required for Windows 11 now. It's a highly secure, sophisticated piece of hardware with numerous tamper detections. Unlikely to bear fruit within the time frame of testing. So what do? There's some SPI support. SPI is a communication protocol for embedded systems and extremely common against virtually all hardware. Due to simplicity, there's no encryption option for SPI. Any encryption must be handled by the devices themselves. BitLocker does not utilize encrypted communications of the TPM2, which means that it's in plain text. So getting around the TPM is going to be like ignoring Fort Knox and focusing on the not so armored car coming out of it. That's actually a pretty good analogy. So they're going to look at the data that's moving over the SPI bus. This is kind of similar to if you've ever done any hardware hacking, the GPIO and the JTAG type stuff. It's like connecting little wires to the JTAG ports and trying to get debug data. So you have Mozzie, MISO, clock select, and anyway. The TLDR here is that they were able to connect these wires to the main board and connect it to those. They should definitely get a bus pirate. It makes shit much easier. I don't know what the fuck that shit is. And then they were able to, they made a disk image of the drive just using some Linux commands. How the hell did they do that? That's pretty cool. So they used the BitLocker SPI toolkit to extract the key, but it wasn't working with their capture. And then they used a high-level analyzer to see some transactions. After days of troubleshooting, they figured out a combination of different bit masks for the TPM packets. They made a regex. They pulled the request for the fix. And now the toolkit can parse these requests as well. And then the key popped out. They got the BitLocker key. With the BitLocker key, you can decrypt the hard drive, and then it's game over, man. Game over, man. Game over. Now, this attack obviously requires the hardware for a long time. Like, this is not something you're going to do, grab somebody's laptop and then, like, give it back to them an hour later. This is going to take you a day or so, and you're going to take the whole fucking thing apart. But you would be able to get the data. And then look, they just did the old fucking utilman exe trick where you know that one? It's the sticky keys trick where you boot up Windows, and when it first starts up, you go to the accessibility settings, and when you click on one of those executables, it launches command prompt instead of the thing because you renamed the file.
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's an old ass trick, but that's what they did. Once they had access to the drive where they could read it and write it, They just did that trick, and then they popped utilman command shell right here. From there, you can do like net user add, and then add a user account, or you can just wipe the password on the admin account. You're running a system anyway. You could literally just type Explorer here and get a really weird Windows shell that would pop up, and half the things wouldn't work. But you could also, just log into any account because you're running a system shell. Or if you want to be a real asshole, take this and if you have the ability to write out a PowerShell exploit right here, and then just pass this to Metasploit, and you never even have to log into the damn thing, and then you can run all your other tools like Kiwi or Mimikatz, all that fun shit. Anyway, NetUZ, yep. Just echo DG, right? So, yep, they were able to pop it and get inside. Now they're in it, and essentially the VPN software with the creds are saved, and they're in the corporate network. That is some badassery. That's a cool ass write up. It's in the show notes. I recommend if you're interested in that kind of stuff to take a look at it. Next, we've got a health company was extorted. British Columbian's personal information is online and for sale because the company refused to pay. I'll play the little video here.
The video, there's no audio, or very little.
No audio?
Well, you're using headphones, which is great to cancel out sound, but I believe...
yeah, I get it. Let me see how I can do this. Anyway, I'll just read the freaking article. So, the personal information of British Columbians has leaked online, with an unknown number of people and agencies potentially still vulnerable after a data breach at a mental health service provider. Homewood Health, headquartered in Ontario with services and contacts around Canada, acknowledges it was hacked earlier this year and had only recently begun contacting affected companies and agencies whose information has been compromised, including BC Housing, TransLink, and Provincial Health Service Authority. They have confirmed that the information leaked online is authentic, and a bulk of the data is still at auction on Marketo, a site that describes itself as Leaked Data Marketplace. There are a lot of leaked data marketplaces. There's Raid Forums. There's Magpo. There's Marketo now. There's like 30 of these fucking places you can find that just sell data that ransomware groups are not getting money from the companies for, and then just sell it to the highest bidder. This data is still on that site for sale. Nobody's even bought it, but it's out there now, and they put a large sample of it out there, and so that it was verified. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's going to buy it now that it's got some publicity. It's probably overpriced, which is why it wasn't bought in the first place. Yeah, this is a screenshot of this place. Marketo Leaked Data Marketplace. Yeah. Anyway, so that happened. Here is what the Google Drive security update message means. This is an interesting little read here. Google is making its sharing links harder to guess and notifying users. A security update will be applied to Drive. Google's weird new email reads. A whole bunch of us on the Irish tech staff got blasted last night, yada, yada, yada. The TLDR is it's easily and fairly trivial if you do a share link, like we all do, to brute force that 8-character essentially parameter after the equal sign to find files people have shared without them wanting you to have them. So they're making it longer and harder to guess. That's pretty much it. We all share stuff with Google Drive, and sometimes we'll change the permissions so like anybody with the link can access it. Well, that's not the best idea. Anyway, we have to do it sometimes for ease of use sake, but it's not the greatest security thing. Next, we've got a hacker has downloaded about 30,000 personal ID photos, which he is then likely going to sell on the dark web somewhere. They call those ID kits. You can actually go on like Magbo and buy like say a Russian ID for 70 cents. And then if you want to like sign up for a Bitcoin website that does like that identity verification shit to make sure you're like not a US citizen so they can send off to the taxes, right? So you could use like a Russian identity instead, and it'll have like pictures of the person's like passport and then like the actual person themselves, like maybe holding up an ID. They're really easy to get, and they sell like for less than $1. So the hacker was able to obtain 280,000 identity photos following an attack on the state information system last Friday. That's pretty ironic. They hacked the actual government itself. The culprit already obtained personal names and ID codes and was able to obtain a third component, the photos, making the individual request from thousands of IPs. He probably ran this through like either the Tor network, that other one that name eludes me right now. It starts with a P, or maybe they just had a bunch of proxies.
I2P?
I2P, thank you. Man.
It's been a while since I've been into these various, I guess you'd call them cipher nets. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, well, essentially the guy hit these state systems from multiple, like thousands of IP addresses to make this work. Because if you do it all from the same IP, they're going to get wise to it pretty quick. So this guy somehow ran this attack through thousands of IPs, which I would imagine he probably bought like a list of proxy servers somewhere and then just used proxy chains on like Kali that was like pre-configured to just route each web request through like a different one, or like use Tor socks or use, there's a bunch of shit you can do. So these totaling 286,438 identification components, essentially like ID kits almost, were downloaded in mass from over 9,000 domestic and foreign IP addresses using a malware network and forged digital cert. Forged digital cert. That's the most interesting part here. How do you forge a root CA? That's a big deal. That's more of a big deal than the rest of this article. If this dude's got a root CA laying around, that's some badassery right there. You can do a lot of man-in-the-middle shit with that. I don't know how the fuck you'd forge a root CA. I wish I could. Maybe I can inspect some of the freaking SSL traffic going on my client networks. Digitally stored photos were the only data the hacker had been able to obtain. No databases were compromised. That's bullshit, because the photos and the IDs were definitely stored in a database. Just because they didn't access the database through SQL injection doesn't mean they didn't access the database. Anyway, they obtained namely picture, personal ID code, and their name. This is enough to access any of Estonia's e-state services, meaning that they could, as this hacker, pretty much impersonate anybody in Estonia for purposes of interacting with the government. That is badass. Of course, they. What do you even do? Do you just put out a whole data breach notification to the entire country? Sorry, we lost your ID. Good luck monitoring your credit. Next, senators suggest turning off phones as a way to have them secure. This is how well senators understand technology. Just turn it off, then it's secure. If I want my phone not to get hacked, I'll turn my phone off. And the article is not loading. Article fail. Why you no load? Come on. What's all this crap? Okay, this is just not loading. It's a New York Times article. That's probably why. The New York Times hates me. Let's go to uBlock.
I noticed there's a bunch of. I was looking at the show notes. I noticed a bunch of dates that I apparently got wrong because I kept repeating the same thing over and over again and got the wrong year in it. I'm trying to put the dates in all the show notes so it's easy for people to find which one's which.
Oh, okay. I forgot what to do here. Let's just take this freaking URL, copy it, and hit archive.is, which I love this site. I would like to make a copy of this, please. Yes. Oh, look, the whole article. What do you know? Excellent. All right. So, fueled by desire for touchless transaction, QR codes popped up everywhere in the pandemic. Businesses don't want to give them up. When people enter Teeth, a bar in San Francisco's Mission neighborhood, the bouncer gives them options. They can order food and drinks at the bar, or they can order via QR code. Each table at Teeth has a card emblazoned with the code, a pixelated black and white square. Customers simply scan it with their phone to open a website for the online menu. Uh-oh. I gotta close things when I'm doing a cast. I
was
seen
looking elsewhere, so I didn't even see it.
That's fine, but somebody recorded it somewhere. QR codes are essentially a kind of barcode that allows transactions to be touchless and have emerged as a permanent text fixture. So, are QR codes safe? Well, are going to any random website on the internet safe? How hard is it to replace a QR code at, say, a restaurant menu with a QR code that goes to a website that takes advantage of some exploits in an older version of Android that uses, say, the default WebKit renderer for internet browsing, right? Say I'm an asshole and I go to this restaurant, and I know most people who go there are going to have old-ass Android phones because everyone has old-ass Android phones. It's either you've got the latest and greatest Android phone or you got one that's like 2 years old and doesn't get any security updates anymore and is using browser shit that is not secure. So say I take advantage of one of these shitty exploits that only works on like 5% of the devices that hit it. Well, let's say conservatively 20%, right? So that's 1 in every 5. If 5 people eat there that night and scan that, I got 20% chance that I'm going to pop some phones. But it increases the more people who eat there, right? So you can do some evil shit with the QR code and say a website that you set up yourself. Hell, you could even mirror the real website so they'd never know anything really happened. You could just make a copy of it and put it on somewhere else. Nobody would even check the freaking URL. It's on a smartphone. Nobody checks URLs on smartphones. So, yeah, there's some evil shit you can do with QR codes, and companies don't want to give them up. But they probably should, because that's just like, just put the fucking website on the thing, you know? This I found really cool. This is a QR code. This is not it. Reverse image search thing that has facial recognition, right? So this dude found this tool. It's really creepy, but it's great. So you upload a photo, right? And he found it from an OSINT challenge where it was to find Satoshi Nakamura, the guy who invented Bitcoin, right? So this is a face search engine, reverse image search. You upload a photo of yourself or anybody else here, and then it tells you where there are other photos of that person online. And some of the time you find porn, and it is interesting.
Question for you on that. Do we actually have a picture of what Satoshi looks like?
I think this was just a challenge this was not like the real Satoshi. I think this was like a challenge to see if somebody could find somebody pretending to be Satoshi and who they were based on OSINT data that was intentionally like leaked so there was a trail.
There's a great site. I think it's called something like "This Person Doesn't Exist."
Yeah, you make fake
photos. Now the problem is you can't choose. Like if you could choose like race and gender, you could. That would be a really good tool for social engineering.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people, you can actually tell which photos are generated by that because the eyes and nose are always in the same place. So you can actually tell one of those photos. Also, the EXIF data is in there. But besides that, face search engine. So this thing is cool, right? So he puts himself in there, right? And he finds a bunch of pictures of himself all online that he's not seen before. I put a picture of myself in there. You know what I got? I got fucking Kevin James back. It did not work as well for me. I put some pictures of Autumn in there, and I got some pictures of random girls who look similar to Autumn, and one trans person who looks similar to Autumn, but none of them were her, which was also disappointing to me.
Facial recognition's kind of hit or miss on a lot of things. Like there was 2 people, there was a woman and a man at DerbyCon one year, and for some reason, I guess maybe because they had similar skin tone and similar glasses, it kept labeling the 2 people wrong.
Oh, no. So, yeah, this thing, this creepy OSINT tool, it has a name that's very similar to another. It's PimEyes. 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 So I was here earlier. I actually tested it. So it lets you do like 10 uploads a day, and then you got to hop on a VPN and open up a new window in incognito mode, right? And then you get another 10, and then you switch to another VPN, and you kill your session, and you start another one, and you get another 10. They just let you upload as many as you want. But the TLDR, let's grab a me. Actually, let's grab some Bailey J here. Let's throw her in there. Now, there's my friend Angel. Nope. These photos might be risky. Don't want to put them on the shows. Anyway,
nothing's gonna get me in trouble with YouTube, please.
well, nothing was like that risky. I meant like, stuff that I don't want everyone seeing. But yeah, so you can just upload a photo. So like I can grab, say, a photo of some random infosec schmuck, right? Let's grab one of those guys. There we go. Let's grab this schmuck, right? Let's go and save that image to the desktop, right? And then we're going to upload a photo from the desktop. There's that guy, right? And then it's going to search by image. And it's going to find me other pictures of that schmuck, hopefully. The demo gods are never nice to me. Oh, look. There's that schmuck with a mohawk. Yeah. See, it found all the pictures of him. All you need is one. It's creepy as fuck, isn't it? Now, if you pay them, they'll actually give you the access to these links without the blurry images. But the very fact, I'm pretty sure that's Amanda Berlin right there, that you can get these at all is, oh, that's definitely Tara over there. It's pretty cool. Like, you just freaking put somebody's photo in there and you can get more pictures of them. Let's see. Let's find somebody else. None of these are that guy. Okay. Let's try dark tangent deep DEFCON. That's not him, is it? Yeah, that's him. Let's take a picture of him. Let's save it to dt.jpg on the desktop. Let's upload it. And dt.jpg. Right. Uploads the image. Finds me. Just that one. Right. Oh, look. A whole bunch of other images of the same exact image. Oh, but other images as well. Look, that's him too. Oh, look, it's Jeff Moss everywhere. Creepy as fuck, right? Oh, come on. That's pretty creepy, Adrian.
Ridiculous.
You upload a photo of somebody, and then it gives you more photos of them, and then you can actually, you pay them like $20 or $30 a month. It gives you the actual links. But I mean, isn't that creepy? That's pretty freaking creepy, dude. Let's take. Who do we know who wouldn't care that we just searched their image? Nathan Hall. Probably wouldn't give a crap. Is that Nathan? That's not Nathan. That's Nathan. That's not even Nathan either. Am I spelling his name wrong?
I don't know. I'm still on Jeff Moss.
No. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. All right. So let's say I take Nathan. You spell his last name Haulk.
I don't know.
Whatever. Is that him? No. He has a beard. That's close. All right. Anyway, who else do we have in our cast regularly? Mac Smith. None of these are that Mac Smith. Anyway. Let's take who's famous in our industry. Let's take Dave Kennedy. Actually, let's go a little less famous. Let's go Alex Hammerstone. Let's take Alex. That is Hammerstone. Trusted sack. What? Is Alex Hammerstone not his real name? Is he just stealing like a pro wrestler's name?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, that's really weird. Yeah. Anyway, who else do we know? I don't know. There's lots of InfoSec people. Well, let's grab a random person who's not famous. Remember this guy? Wonder what he's up to. Guy. Let's find a picture of him. There he is. Find a better picture of him. No, there are no good pictures of him. I wonder if we could find it off that weird thing he did of himself. It's way too small. That's not going to be high res enough. Anyway. Fun times at the Ocean Corner demo reel. There he is. That's my dude. Let's find out. That's him.
Huh.
Dark Simi. And then we're going to go back to the creepiest OSINT tool ever. And let's upload Dark Simi. Let's see what we find. That one. Oh, I screwed that up. I don't know what I'm doing with this tool. Oppa Gundam style. Yep, this face. Not that face. Just that one. Just search that guy. How do I bypass this? Oh, no. Oh, no. What do I do? Oh, no. How do I? Where the fuck am I? Look at the settings. They're fucking Charlotte. Boom. Oh, my IP is different now. Oh, I wonder if I can just go incognito window. Oh, there we go. Look, it's more Dark Sim.
Huh. Those guys look like a newscaster that I've seen.
Oh, it did get his weird thing here, you know. It found from his real face, his image of his face that he puts everywhere. That was on the stickers that he gave him.
That's enough switching with him.
All right. I mean, it's pretty freaking cool, though, right? That you can just like reverse image search people's face with facial recognition. That's badass. I wonder if they got an API and if I could tie it into an IP camera, because that would be severely badass. Imagine running that at a freaking Antifa protest. Yeah. I shouldn't have said that. Now they're going to fucking firebomb my house. All right. That's all I got for this week for the Irongeek Cast. I got nothing else to talk about. Adrian, you got anything to talk about?
Particularly.
All righty. Well, then that's all, folks. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. We love you. If you love Adrian, donate to his Patreon so that he can continue to do fun things like record all the conferences. Once again, have a great night and goodbye.